Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another episode of the Hard Rock Lunchbox. And of course, if you're watching on Stranger Hit TV on YouTube, welcome to the Top 20. It is a brilliantly beautiful fall day. It is October 23rd, 2025, which means... wow, yeah, I didn't realize that Halloween was going to be on a Friday, so I guess that just A+ for me for paying attention. Halloween's going to be on a Friday this year. Whew, that used to be so much fun back when we were in school, right? I mean, I guess if you're in school now, it's still fun, but I am not in school, in case you were wondering. Thank you for asking. But yeah, I definitely remember a couple of those Friday Halloweens, and you just got out of school and was like, man, I am going to go trick-or-treating. Like, you remember trick-or-treating? Like, wow, that was great. I could go for some trick-or-treating. But I digress. So how's everybody doing? It's been quite a week so far. I've got plenty to talk about, none of which I'll probably get to. I do want to talk about something that struck me as very funny this week, actually yesterday. So as I've said often, like, I'm just less and less on Facebook unless I'm doing something specifically to promote the band or to change my cover photo to just remind people that this show is on. Because don't forget, this show is live, so if you miss it, like, yeah, you can watch the top 20, but like, you can't hear the whole show any other way because I'm not allowed to play the music on the replay. Also, if you didn't know, you can always go to hardrocklunchbox.com. Every single episode we have is on there in podcast form, so you can listen to it. For the local blocks, you can usually hear most of the music, because most of the music I have the rights to because it's been submitted by the artists themselves, etc., etc. But the latter half of the show, where I play more national acts, if I don't have the authority to do that or the authorization to play it, then I cannot put it on the replays. So a lot of people, like, if you want to hear all of the music, like, in real time, like, you got to listen to it live, because there really is no other way to hear the show. But to hear the top 20, because it's just me talking and I am the one that owns the rights to all of that, you can see that on YouTube. But I digress. So, as I was saying, so I'm just not on Facebook all that much anymore. There are reasons for that, and I've gone through a lot of them. But more recently than not, it's just... I know I had said maybe a few months ago that it's important for us to stand up and say stuff when it's wrong. And I still believe that to be true, and maybe I'll swing back around. But at this point, it's just not worth it to me to really enter into the discourse with the people that are on Facebook these days. It's definitely a certain subset of the society, and most of which I do not like or agree with and have liked less and less and less. And even when I hop on to change my photo for the show, like, it's just always in my feed, because, like, it just always is. And what was funny about today, specifically, I wanted to do that, is I saw all the very same Trump talking points about why it's fine for him to build a ballroom in the White House, which is fine. You can have your opinion on it. Like, it is completely within his purview to do kind of whatever he wants at the White House, because it is the executive branch, and the executive branch has the authority to do that. I think at best, the argument from anyone opposed to it is that it's just simply in bad taste and bad timing. But, you know, there's nothing legally wrong with it. I mean, they found loopholes around the destruction of it, because the destruction of the East Wing, because you actually don't need a permit if it's destruction. Like, I heard this last night, like, you're not allowed to build anything without a permit from the National Park Service, but apparently you can demolish anything you want, so, which I thought was fascinating. But it's just so funny, because all of the talking points are the same. It's always Obama put it in a basketball court, Nixon put it in a bowling alley. Yeah, nobody really cares. Nobody really cares. And I would urge those people that are opposed to this, because it's in bad taste, to stick to that argument. It's not that he's doing anything wrong. I mean, even my initial reaction was like, we're spending $250 million on a ballroom for a president that said, you know, he was going to ride in, cut in, you know, government expenditures, and all accounts are showing that the government, the taxpayers aren't paying for any of this anyway. It's all donations, and I'm going to air quote donations because a lot of the donations that have been reported are similar to the one where Alphabet, the parent of Google, the parent of YouTube, it donated money to this ballroom as part of a settlement with the administration, with Trump specifically. So, it's what it is gross, but I don't think it's actually illegal. So what I would urge people that are opposed to this, just kind of stick to the facts, because what happens is when you start spouting and espousing stuff that isn't true, it makes you on the same plane as the people on the far right that are espousing things that aren't true. It's easy enough to find the information. Be mad about it, but be specific why you're mad at it. And one of the other things I had seen that just made me laugh out loud, and I just want to take a moment to sarcastically thank my friends on the far right in the MAGA movement for pointing out that, yes, while there were a lot of No Kings protests this weekend, you're right, we still do not have a king. But I also want to congratulate you for missing the point by about 1,000,000 miles, because the point of that protest is not that we have a king. The point of those protests was that we do not want a king. So that's the point of the protest, and the similarities between a monarchy and what's going on in the Trump administration are striking if you bother to pull your head out of your ass long enough to take a look at it. The simple fact that the Trump administration seems like it can govern by executive order is just laughable, and I know I've covered that previously on this show. The executive order is absolutely not a law. What an executive order is effectively when a CEO of a company says, "Hey, Bill, I'd like to get this done." That's what an executive order is. It's a directive to his administration, the executive branch, to focus on certain things or to try and get things done. It is not a law. It is not even enforceable at all. It's just a directive. Please do this. And, the rest of the branches of government can be no, it's just an executive order. It might as well be scribbled on a cocktail napkin, or in Trump's case, the back of a pornography label or something like that, or scribbled on a letter to Jeffrey Epstein. Hey, come on, all right. It's a pretty good joke. So I would just encourage you, if you're going to be mad about something, be mad about it. Oh, the No Kings thing, yeah. So the right is just completely, they're thick. And the best part about MAGA is they think they're so damn clever, and they're really not. Not only are they mostly morons at this point, what's left, but they really think they are so funny, and they really aren't. And I spend a lot of time, well, I don't spend a lot of time watching stuff, but I spend a lot of the time that I'm watching stuff just lamenting that people aren't as funny as they think they are, especially women. No offense to women, but in my experience, women are typically less funny than men, and I realize that there's going to be a fair amount of women in my listening audience. I'm talking about that get mad at that, but I'm just talking observedly and empirically from my experience. That tends to be true. Women think they're a lot funnier than they are because guys laugh at their jokes because they want to sleep with them, right? Thank you, Bill Burr, for that joke. By the way, I'm male. And this is not sexist or misogynist, like I said. It's just experiential observations from me. But yeah, the fact that people are well, thanks for all your protests, but we still don't have a king. Yeah, we know that, dummy. And you're not being funny or clever. Nobody thinks we actually have a king. The protest was because we do not like monarchistic style behaviors, which is what happened, when we did have a king. And we did, because we used to be colonies. Yes, it wasn't a country yet, and it wasn't our country yet. But yeah, when we were colonies, we had a king, and we didn't like it, and we actually had a whole revolution about it. We also had a whole revolution about, taxation without representation, which is still going on in Arizona, by the way, because human vagina Mike Johnson has yet to seat the new Arizona representative. So, arguably, and I will say the state attorney general of Arizona actually filed a lawsuit against Mike Johnson and Congress in general because they're being taxed and they do not have their representatives seated, and there is no reason to seat them. And Mike Johnson is when when Chuck Schumer goes back to work, do your job, man. I can't just be when Toby goes back to work, I'm going to go to work. I'd love to see that fly at my company. Although maybe I should try it, because I don't even know if there's a Toby there. I might get a few more days off that way. So, yeah, just some serious nonsense going on the right. But like, I will say I did see some of the signs from some of the No Kings protests, and I will say comedy is completely fine in America, at least at that point. I think my favorite to date was an older gentleman sitting on a transport scooter or whatever they're called, and his sign was like, I hate crowds, but I hate Trump more, which I thought was brilliant. I saw a picture of a dog wearing a vest that said, "They're still not eating the dogs." I thought that was good. I think the funniest one I heard about was come on, cholesterol, you only have one job. And that's obviously because Trump is looking worse and worse and has the diet of basically a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle without using any of the exercise skills or ninja training they got from Shredder. So hopefully cholesterol will kick in any moment, clog off one more of those arteries, and then we'll have President President J.D. Vance, which is even worse. But at least he doesn't have the charisma and definitely does not have the authority to manipulate the federal government. I will say that latest polling shows that Trump's approval rating is at 35%, which is like his lowest so far, which does go to very strongly to my argument that 35% of the country is retarded. So I don't know that that's a good sign. It's just more validation for people like me that are not necessarily anti-Trump at every level, but like to point out all the stuff that he's doing incorrectly. Where he's losing ground the most, not surprisingly, is on immigration. Especially the Hispanic community does not seem to like them just breaking into people's homes overnight and showing up to their job sites and arresting them without any reason. If you were paying attention at all, there was a big ICE raid on Canal Street in New York City, arresting street vendors. Now, street vendors are their own problem in New York City, and New York City is more than capable to handle it. But very few street vendors are actually committing crimes other than maybe vending without a permit, which I did not realize was eroding away the social fabric of America. And it's certainly nothing that the Trump administration was elected on, because I don't remember a single diatribe from Trump about we're going to get rid of all these street vendors that are selling all this food on Canal Street. Like, I think, as Joe Rogan would say, if that's what he pitched to be president, he'd probably not be president right now. So, but it was interesting to see a bunch of New York City people just gather around ICE so that they could not keep arresting all these street vendors, to the point where ICE tucked their tails back between their vaginas and ran back to the federal building because there was nothing they could do about it. So I am a big fan of civil disobedience in that form. So A+ New York City, great job sending ICE packing, because they really just couldn't do anything about it. And that's what I like to see. I do want to point out one incredibly important thing about the No Kings protests over the weekend that was probably under the radar. And these were notifications and tweets and whatever else from major police departments around the city, including San Diego and New York City, that posted that during the No Kings protest, not a single protest-related arrest was made. And I think that's the way to do it. I really do think that's the way to do it. Just keep civilly disobeying and just keep making your voices heard. I would urge that people stop with the costumes. I do find that a little bit silly. I mean, obviously be yourself if you want to be yourself, but I don't think you're adding to anything specifically by doing that. I believe it is important for people that look like you and me to represent people that look like you and me, because I want people, as they're driving by at these protests, to see people that look like them and wonder, maybe I should be upset about this. Maybe I should be protesting. Because if you drive by and you see a bunch of inflatable frogs protesting, chances are you don't have an inflatable frog costume anyway. But also you may not necessarily identify as an inflatable frog. So that's not really going to speak to you. But the more and more and more people out in the streets protesting, speaking, doing all that sort of stuff, look like everyday people, look like you and me, the more people that look like you and me are going to feel compelled to be part of that group. And with that, I think the total number of people protesting over the weekend was 7 million Americans. That is stunning. The largest one-day protest ever had in this country. And nobody really cares about the numbers because it really doesn't matter. And I did see somebody who I sometimes respect on the right post out that this isn't what democracy looks like, and then puts the electoral college map from the last election and said, this is what democracy looks like. And I just want to point out that that's both of those things are correct. Protesting in the streets against an administration that you do not approve of is just as much democracy as voting in elections. So this is what I'm talking about when people just keep missing the point and just like slighting the other side just because it's the other side. Like, both things can be true, and in this case, both things are true. And it really waters down your argument and honestly makes me just respect you less and less when you can't even bother to see that. Like, both of these things can be true, and both of them are true, and that's fine. Democracy in action can take a whole lot of forms, and one of them really is protesting and speaking your mind and speaking your truth to power that you don't agree with. Like, that really is super important, and I think it really is going to be the path forward. And much to own the right, even though they just live to own the left. I do want to point out that in the latest YouGov poll, AOC is polling more popular than Donald Trump, which I thought was hysterical. Because you want to talk about a boogeyman to the people on the right, man. AOC, they do not like her. And the fact that she is now more popular with Americans by quite a bit than Donald Trump should tell you kind of where you're at. So you're going to start seeing a lot of panicking, a lot of posturing, and you're going to start seeing a bunch of like potential election rigging for the 2026 election. Because if things keep going the way they're going, there is absolutely no way the Republicans are going to go hold on to the House, and they might lose the Senate. Which, honestly, as much as I personally think that would be a good idea and probably the right thing to happen, I have to tell you, as a student of civics and a student of government in action, what I would really like to see happen is a giant blue wave to see exactly what a democratically led bicameral House would actually do with this administration. I mean, I'm sure on day one there'd be articles of impeachment, which at this point is just, ridiculous. I don't know that the Senate would remove him as much as the Senate would just censure him and basically make him impotent, which, by all accounts, he pretty much is anyway. So, sexually, I mean. Politically, he's absolutely damaging with a raging hard-on for anything he feels like destroying. But it'd be really interesting to see. But what I would really like to see is some, hearings about some of his cabinet, because a lot of his cabinet have actually had major ethics violations and even broken the law a couple of times, including lying to Congress. So I think that would be fascinating. I don't think any of that's going to happen, but I would like to watch it and see it because I think that would be kind of cool. I actually wanted to sort of come in and talk about what had gone on at our show on Friday night, because in a very classically Long Island move, and I guess I can't really speak for the rest of the country. I suppose it does happen. It's never happened to me elsewhere. But in the Long Island, New York City area, back when I was coming up in a band, a lot of times what would happen is the promoter or the booker would reshuffle the deck in terms of the order of the bands that were going, as they were going to play. And there's one band famously that used to have that happen in their favor all the time, and all the other bands that played with them knew about it and expected it to a degree. And, a lot of times it would just be like, well, they brought the most people, so I'm going to put them on the best time. Whether it was true or not didn't really so much matter. I mean, if you don't think promoters play favorites, you're out of your mind. And that's okay. I don't mind when promoters play favorites, because I'm usually in the top 5 for most promoters, because Rebel 9 is super easy to work with, and Rebel 9 always seems to do the job. We don't blow shows off. We're dependable. We're reliable. We're professional. We are timely. All that kind of stuff. So I don't generally mind it, but I did kind of mind it this past Friday, because the deck got shuffled as we were walking on stage, and then we ended up getting bumped 2 hours back from our original stage time. Now, personally, I guess at this advanced age of mine, and having seen everything that I'm going to see kind of on stage, it didn't bother me so much for me or the band. I did have some concerns in the fact that, I was already prepped. I do a lot of vocal prep before I perform, and I had already done that, and it's actually kind of hard to redo it. There are reasons for that I don't need to get into. There's also concerns I have about my band spending 2 more hours in a bar, because some of my band, and they know who they are, do tend to drink a little bit at the bar, and it always seems to affect their performance. But if we are arriving closer to our stage time, we kind of limit that window where that can be a problem. But when you get bumped 2 hours, it becomes harder to do that. Plus, it's a Friday, so fatigue starts to kick in. I mean, the simple fact that we were supposed to play at 9 o'clock and didn't play until 11, those 2 hours on a Friday really do kind of add to your fatigue and your day and all that other stuff. So that was kind of problematic. But where it really, really bothered me, and this is where I was absolutely seething and my anxiety was flying off the charts, is that people had come very specifically just to see us. It wasn't a bill that people were super stoked about because it wasn't like a whole bunch of Sandbox bands. In fact, it was only one Sandbox band, and that was us. So, you know, what I lovingly refer to as the Sandbox, that entire crew, anybody coming down there was basically coming just to see us. And while I can always encourage people to come and see bands, especially if I'm speaking to that and encouraging that, or really psyched for a band, like I would be, for example, like with Playing Dead in December, a lot of our fans have not seen them live, and I think that that is something that needs to be addressed. So I am fine with telling people to come early to see that band, very specifically. But in this particular case, I didn't have that on this lineup. So I had people that like showed up super early just to see us, and they had to wait another 2-something hours just to see us if they were able to stay. And some people really weren't. Some people had plans. Some people canceled plans to stay and see us play. And I know it's because hopefully there's a big component of that is that they wanted to see the band. But a lot of these people have seen the band anywhere from 10 to 1,000 times. So I don't necessarily know how much that played into it. And I know, or at least I feel like a lot of it was people staying because they like the band as people, myself included. Like they're our friends, and they were out and they were like, screw it, I'll just stay anyway. A lot of them were like, yeah, I'm going to stay for you because I feel bad that you're going through this, which is so wonderful in so many ways, and I just feel so badly about that. Like, I know people's time is valuable, and people's time is really precious because I know how precious it is to me. And to have my time wasted like that, like, I'm very rarely mad at the people that are caught up in that, but I'm always mad at the people that are doing it with intention. And that's what I really felt bad for. So I did want to offer up a very heartfelt thank you for everybody that did stay, because I do appreciate it, and I do want to offer up a very deep apology for anybody that was inconvenienced because of that. When I tell you I had absolutely no say in the matter, and there was literally nothing I could do because I tried to do something about it, but it simply just was happening. The people that were running the show, it was their show. We were getting paid to be there, so I was basically an employee, and that's what happened. I was given the out to not perform at all, which I would never do to even a single person that showed up to see us. I would never do that, and have never done that. If there's one person in the audience that's there to see us, I'm going to perform for that one person. You've taken the time, then I will take the time as well. So that was the only out I really had, and it wasn't really an out that I would ever take. But I did want to just sort of say that. I hope I explained some of what was going on. I can talk about my other personal anxieties some other time when I have less other stuff to talk about, because it really was something that ramped me up. And Jimmy and I were having a pretty good laugh about that at the time, even though it took me hours to come down from that level of anxiety. But hopefully it was still a good show. I did hear the recording of it. It sounded like it was a good show, so I'm happy for that. But anyway, like I said, I'm sorry for anybody that I inconvenienced, and I am super appreciative, and thank you very much for anybody that did decide to stick around and support the band through such a weird sort of moment in our career. But I think I've talked enough for the top 20, probably talked enough for the top 30. So let's just get on to some music. I mentioned Playing Dead before because they are playing with us in December. I am super psyched for that show. I have my boy Kaz working on the flyer right now. I'll be curious to see what he has, and I will send that out to you as soon as I have it so we can start getting ready for that, because that is our end of the year party. It's always a fun one, and I am looking forward to everyone being there and us just kicking out 2025 the way that only our Sandbox knows how to do that. But to prime you for that, I know I play them all the time, so you probably know them anyway. Here's a little Playing Dead for you on the box.